HeartMath is a really very cool piece of science that's been developed in the last, 17 years, at least starting back in 1990. And there's a place called the HeartMath Institute. And I guess the place to sort of start talking about is their original research is they started looking at what made people healthy and what made people unhealthy and how could you measure health. And normally when you think about your heart, you think that the heart beats at a very regular rate, like a metronome. But if you could measure the heart with a much more finer piece of equipment, like in the Olympics they use a stopwatch that can measure the swimmers to 100th of a second to see who won and who set a world record. If you could measure the heart like that, you might find that instead of the heart beating once a second when it's at rest, it beats like 0.98 of a second, and then the next one is 1.01 second, and then 0.99, and then 1.02. So there's actually a very small but fine range of variability in how the heart beats. And what they found is that people who were really not healthy, who were struggling to sort of stay alive, their heart would beat very regularly like a metronome, right on time. But people who were really healthy, their heart has a what's called a heart rate variability. It has a range that might not be perceptible to our normal everyday waking consciousness, but that can be measured. Now, if your heartbeat is very erratic, that's also not healthy. But what they found is the healthiest people had what they called heart rate variability. So their heart, instead of beating exactly like a metronome, would beat like within a small range. And this correlates more, this is a better correlation of health than any other measurable factor that they've come up with. So this is a better correlation of measuring your health than your cholesterol level, than your body mass index, than any of the other sort of things that we normally talk about, your blood pressure. If you can get yourself into the heart rate variability zone, then your chances of living a healthy life are very good. And so first they discovered that they could measure this and that it correlated with high-level health. And then they started thinking, well, if this correlates with high-level health, how can we enhance it in people? Is there ways that you can get people to get into this heart rate variability zone? And they found a couple of different ways. One way is with breathing exercises. But it's not the fastest way and it's not the easiest way, and you have to focus a lot on the breathing. There's a much easier way, and that is if you take your awareness and you put it into your heart and you focus on what we would normally call the heartfelt emotion, like appreciation or gratitude or love or care or compassion. If you feel those emotions in your heart, it helps take you into the heart rate variability zone. And that's a pretty easy thing to do because most people have had times in their life when they felt that. Now, if you're going to do something like think about appreciation, you can't just do it in your head. You actually have to feel it in your heart. That's a main part of what gets the heart rate into this heart rate variability zone. And then they started doing all kinds of research around this. And they found things like, they talk about how the brain has the brain we often think of controls the body. We've always been taught in school the brain is like the leader of the body and it tells all the rest of the body what to do. But now they're discovering things like the body, or the heart at least, sometimes tells the brain what to do. And the brain has an electromagnetic field around it that you can measure about 1 or 2 inches out from the skull. The heart has an electromagnetic field around it that you can measure across a room. It's like 50 times greater than the brain's. And the heart can entrain the brain and can entrain the rest of the body. So if you think about cuckoo clocks, they talk about in like Swiss clock shops how all of the clocks start beating together. Has anybody heard about that? Anybody here ever heard that? Nobody. When I tell this to people, I found about half the people have heard this and half the people haven't. But cuckoo... What? You guys are the other half, I guess so, yeah. Cuckoo clocks, when they put them in a room, and they can start the pendulum swinging any which way. Within a period of time, all the pendulums are swinging synchronized with each other. And these aren't even living beings. These are just made out of, wood and electronical parts. But they entrain with each other, sort of in the same way, like a tuning fork entrains with the piano. They vibrate at the same level, and they resonate, and they make each other go off. So what they're saying is that the heart actually has a much stronger ability to entrain the brain than vice versa, because it has a much stronger field. And when I started reading all this, I started thinking, well, you know, when you meet people, we often talk about, oh, you pick up their vibes. You walk into a room, and you just have a sense about somebody. Oh, they're kind, or they're moody, or they're feeling this or feeling that. You know, and other than noticing subtle body language information that people have talked about as one way that we might describe how is it that we just sort of know what people are feeling, you know, their facial expressions. I think you can also feel the heart rate across the room. You can pick up that energy, that electromagnetic field, because we are electromagnetic fields around us. If you have a heartbeat, you have an electromagnetic field. And my field is interacting with all of your guys' fields. So, you know, so when you talk about, oh, somebody's vibes, it could be you're picking up the vibe of what they're putting out from their electromagnetic field. And, you know, if you realize that, oh, well, with a little bit of training, you can learn that if a certain kind of facial expression indicates a certain state, and a different kind of facial expression indicates a different state, then why isn't it not possible that we can, at some level, know a certain heart rate variability indicates one kind of state and another indicates another state, so that you can tell when somebody's agitated or angry or in love or feeling good or likes you or doesn't like you even before they open up their mouth. So, so the thing with the heart rate variability is that when you start to work with this, you can start to train your heart rate to move into that zone. And they started coming up with ways to teach people how to do this. So the easiest and sort of first way is they would talk to people about have a sense of appreciation. So I'm going to do a simple exercise with you all and invite you to take 1 minute and just sort of close your eyes and think about something you appreciate. Now, it could be anything in the world that you appreciate. There's the nice thing about working with appreciation. It's generally not a cluttered feeling. Like if I were to think about my wife, I love my wife, but you know, but maybe there's days when I'm upset with her because of a conversation we had last night. And so maybe if I close my eyes and I think about my wife, it's not going to really take me into that heart space kind of place. But if I think about something I appreciate, it's always going to take me there. And you know, and it could be that you're sitting there appreciating one political party and the person sitting next to you appreciates another political party. Or you appreciate your dog, or you appreciate your neighbor, or your teacher from school, or the fact that it rained today, or the sun was out today. It doesn't really matter what it is that you appreciate. It's the process of feeling that appreciation here in your heart. And you want to feel it here that takes your body into, moves you into that heart rate variability zone. So, so I'm going to invite you to do this for a minute. Just close your eyes and think about something you appreciate. And just bring your awareness down into your heart and try and feel that sense of appreciation in your heart. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so how was doing that? Did anybody find it challenging or difficult? All right. And how did that make people feel just to do that for a minute?
It was
Relaxing?
relaxing.
Okay. Yeah, so they have, so they talk about some different strategies about how to work with HeartMath.